Finally, The Lion's Daughter's album Skin Show. Fourth studio album, apparently. First time I'm hearing about him from fucking St. Louis. Underneath my fucking nose this entire time. This album, I've been trying to hold off a little bit on this thing. This thing has come out since April. Oh, there's another album that's come out since February I need to get to, and we'll talk, and I plan on doing a separate review of, as opposed to putting it in with my other stuff because it deserves some attention, because support your local artists. This is one of those examples that I felt like needed its own separate little review. I've been holding off on it. I was able to do, for those who know my ways around even certain portions of the music scenes, and even those that were, at least even in some certain circles in the Schmoedown, that are probably watching this as well, because of Schmoedown Rocks. Basically all you Schmoedown rockers, as well as fellow random rockers, have, to shorten it up a bit, this thing just, I heard mostly about this album through Metal Meltdown and then Metal Trenches, which is where I found out they were from St. Louis. And I was like, what? And that it took that to perk my head about this record. And then when I heard the ideas of the sound of this record, I was like, maybe I should give this a shot. And I did. And I got like the kind of horror like thematic vibes of this record. I compare at the time of my first listen. I mean, I wouldn't say go immediately listen to it within the first day. I mean, if give it maybe another week or two before you listen to it again. And it can't be for the faint of heart or someone who isn't into that level of extreme, even though I feel there's so much that is happening with this record that I'm more surprised that this is how it is, or at least from a production standpoint, that I wasn't expecting from a more local artist, to be honest with you. Granted, they're relying on a lot of the production, and I think it was produced in St. Louis, but it was mixed in Chicago. So, if I'm not mistaken, from what I looked up, as what this band is described from this album, or so it would seem. As they put in their biography here, Skin Show should be the soundtrack of Times Square in the 1970s, the epicenter of sin and salacious misdeeds, a haven for sex, drugs, and crime beneath the inviting glow of neon signs dangling in sleazy adult stores, a place where angels fear to tread. Trepidation from eerie synths prefigure the knife at the throat of insistent death. Black and doom metal they're only to those exposed to the deviance of their previous album, Future Cult, which I have yet to listen to. And at some point when I'm not obsessed with this record, and looking forward to possibly the album that will follow this up, I will probably give those albums a shot. I probably should. You'd think with how much I've listened to this, I should give those other albums a shot, including the one that was mentioned here. With guitars, vocals, and synths done by Rick I'm going to butcher these, so I apologize to them. Rick Giordano. Drum and percussions by Eric Ramsier. And bass and vocals by Scott Fogelbach. Whether or not his vocals are the blackened element of it, and Rick's are the more death growly, but also very guttural, shouted, hardcore style of vocals. I mean, it mentions both death, black, and doom metal. It's essential, but though the way I describe this record, despite what it is stated here, a weird blending of darkwave synths comparable to the likes of anything you'd expect out of John Carpenter's body of work. Movie, or at least any film you've heard from the likes of what is referenced and utilized through the Exorcist, of the more Exorcist / Halloweenish type sound that is clearly being used on the third track and what is considered to be the highlight of this record for the most part by anyone who's listened to this, Neon Teeth. Apparently the album was April 9th. By the way. Okay, so yes, producer, sound engineer was Sanford Park. The album was recorded at Firebrand Recording in St. Louis, as well as mixing studio and engineering in Hypercube by Sanford Parker, with the album's mastering of the record. Engineer and mixing was done by said Sanford Park, with mastering being done by a guy named Colin Jardo at the Boiler Room in Chicago, Illinois. That's a big name place, if I'm not the Boiler Room, if I'm not mistaken. Interesting. This album's start, as you heard the beginning of, the guitars and synths. A lot of what I hear from this band going into this, I'm trying to decipher a lot of things happening. I'm getting this blackened death and roll meets freaking gothic sludge going on here, blending together with these synthesizers throughout, with at least some moments where, with like Werewolf Hospital being more crossover thrash, heavy hardcore induced sounding. For inflected death metal type track with All Hell Is Mine, one of my other favorite deep cut highlights, with mainly for its chorus. This chorus being the biggest payoff, and the beginning of this being very riffs, being very much industrial in that very Ministry, Jesus Built My Hot Rod Ministry, and Wish levels of, and Wish by Nine Inch Nails levels of just bass, just or at least this is what the band is quoted on their little thing here. Cover by Mothmeister, which, good job on you. Whether or not they just use a still shot from a certain music video or not, which I've seen little hints of. But yeah, I put it in case you didn't know, I'm reading it off the Bandcamp, but I'm putting it on my wish list. Not sure when it will ever get bought, but yes, that's exactly what is said here. Rick Giordano's vocals, specifically his growls, and or at least even the vocal production to me, compared to most death growls, at least if you listen to it like you should with in-ears, that's where you really need to hear this record. I get vibes of Ghost, Avatar. Speaking of death and roll, you know what I mean? Since that band was kind of considered that in its earlier days before it just became the more modern metal, which they're a blend of melodic death metal and death and roll that eventually evolved into the more modern new wave American heavy metal inspired alt metal-ish type bordering hard rock, Moroccan traditional metal that that band seemed to have been, with still some of its melodic death metal flourishes at the very least. which is what Avatar kind of is, and which I had seen live, and they're fucking awesome. But yeah, become the knight here. Just become the fucking knight. Even the growls and stuff. The fucking, I mean, the hook on that chorus, dude. And the way they start this off before you get into something that seems standard death. And then when you think they want to take you out of it, but it doesn't sound terrible, at least the production, from a production standpoint, that you're able to get into it. But it gets up to a point where you're like, there's got to be some kind of payoff in the chorus. I mean, that, like, you can hear the words. Like, am I the only one who can actually hear him actually enunciating with these actually fierce growls? Is it just me? I mean, son of a bitch. And all the synth work. I've even tried to get freaking Justin the Juice to at least do some of this stuff, because the synth work on here seems like something up his alley. But it's Neon Teeths. And the chorus is fucking brutal. Brutal in of itself. And you were there with Neon Teeth. I mean, just even the way he does it with the growls, they hit, or at least the way they come off is, and and even that bass has its moments in, like, this track, Dead in Dreams, the Werewolf Hospital thrashiness. The title track is something of itself. Snakeface is okay, I guess, but it, like I said, All Hell Is Mine here. That riff there. The closing title track is something too, but just like the way they do it and the way it's done, even with the pounding industrial just synths of with that bass, just. And I think Snakes, yeah, it was Snakes, and they had the bass. When I think about it. Snakefaces was one, like, I think that one had the bass, or was it the, I'm trying to remember which one had the bass. Might have been Sex Trap, actually. Yeah, that bass is fucking killer on that track. I know some people consider it weak sauce, but I love the bass on it. It sounds, it's growly, but a little funky in that sort of Billy Gould kind of way. I might be stretching it with that, though. But it's pretty good. Makes me want to pick up a bass sometimes, you know, even though I'm more interested in picking up a guitar. And it makes me wonder, I gotta ask these guys, given the time frame of when I saw this Coiler Studios, I'm probably butchering this wrong, but during this thing, they, I think they talked about the fact that Slipknot's Mick Thompson had released his own signature cabinet speaker impulse response, IRs, for short. And I'm starting to wonder if they used some of those or not. Or maybe they used something that he used to use before he had those IRs. I'm not sure, but which might have just been some form of a V30, since those were based around it. But the way that they're come off in the production, it seems like they used it. Maybe in post or something, and thought that maybe it would help them a little bit. I'm not sure, but I do get that. I did those vibes. I feel like, and a lot of the stuff that's on here, I mean, is does exactly what is said from their Wikipedia page. But yeah, the growls are produced so fucking well that they are probably the most enunciated to me. Maybe not done in a way that I think people, even despite, I feel like it's still not for the faint of heart and for anyone that hasn't already used to this type of stuff. But I feel like if you don't want your traditional thing, you want a little something more, this album does exactly that. And I think it just kind of goes in a I think it just, because there are moments, even with the final track, it has these moments where it finally comes to an end. And you do get this weird panning where it sounds like fucking demonic shit with the weird blackened, screechy little moments of growls that are like sounding like fucked up little demonic seance, and it's like, holy fucking shit. Like, it has the right kind of horror vibes to it that, like I said, I hadn't gotten since fucking the past couple besides what I've been getting out of the past couple Code Orange albums. I am dead serious on it, and for some reason this album has found a way to stick its claws in me, and I need to the point where I'm starting to wonder if I'm burning myself out on it already. And luckily, I was able to I basically managed to request a Viral Rack, and luckily, the way I hyped up the 10 out of 10, and honestly, I still feel it that way with this record. Even though I will understand if you give it a lower score, but to say that this isn't great and at the very least an 8 out of 10, come the fuck on, dude. This, as for a project like this, yeah, it's horns up, and borderline masterclass. I think this band did it. I mean, they're apparently 4 albums in. They must, and now they're starting to make traction. There's a reason for it. It's because this album is that damn fucking good, and you need to give this thing a shot. And even if the stuff that they were doing doesn't seem too far off from what you basically have gotten from usual death metal stuff, in terms of the instrumentation in that regard, the synths do enough, and then they kind of try to switch it up in some of the aspects of tones, like I said with Werewolf Hospital, that are, besides relying on the synths and relying less on it, or at least having it go into backgrounds, all these other things. The chorus, like I said, with Hell is Minus fucking rips. Overall, like I said, just please check this album out. I might leave a link in the description to this album. I mean, you have something of a masterpiece here. I don't know if the last record, Future Cults, did exactly have that similar thing to it or not, but it's just, like, it kind of hit me in a way, and I was like, I love the production of this fucking thing. Even more impressed with what they did production-wise on the growls and how they managed to make the actual words. Like, I don't feel like I missed a word in the way any of the growls, yet alone even the blackened screeches, which I don't know if it's just me adjusting to it or not, or if there's, like, because I'm using my usual, my sound cloudish, whatever the fuck they called it, in-ears or whatever, and I'm getting, that's what I've been using this whole time. I've yet to get a full length, and eventually I would love to get this album full length, and recommend it to anyone who is a metalhead. I'd say this album's worth your fucking time. Give it a shot. Ugh. Quite the blending of sounds, and I even felt like maybe this is what I wanted from a Catatonia record, since I'm not getting it from trying to binge it from start to finish, which was a terrible decision. But anyways, what did you guys think of the album? Leave a comment below. Let me know. As always, guys, keep it random, keep it real, keep it rocking. See you in the next video, which, by the way, link in the description to my Facebook page. You can like and follow me there. And as well as, just if you like this, if you hit the like button thrust if you must, if you did like it, and if not, and as well as maybe subscribe to the channel and click the notification bell so you can see more of these videos. So always, guys, keep it random, keep it real, keep it rocking, and see y'all in the next video. Take care, y'all.